I think there is a crisis in the solid waste problem. Whether it's overblown or not, I don't know.
I think we have a definite problem. When people have to say, I'm not going to go into the ocean because they're afraid, I think we have a definite problem, yes.
For the future for the kids, it's, you know, for my kids, I have a 9-year-old too, it's not very good outlook to see all this garbage just laying around.
Because certainly in our own area, our own dump is being filled up and they have no idea what they're going to do with it.
Why can't we recycle this? Why can't it be reused? I mean, we've started reusing glass, we've started reusing and processing aluminum cans.
But some things you can't recycle. You know, you have to use it, dispose it as it comes.
Maybe we incinerate too much, but I'm afraid it's one of the quickest ways we can get rid of this stuff without putting the product itself in the ground and just cover it over. So I don't know what the answer is.
What should happen is that if people want to have clean air and they want to have clean water and they really care about this problem, then they have to be willing to do something about it. They have to be willing to say it's everybody's problem. It's not just the government's, it's not just the businessman, it's everybody's problem.
It is everybody's problem, and it's everybody's job. At McDonald's, we know that. We are a company of local business people. We live where our customers live. We operate neighborhood restaurants in towns and cities of every kind throughout the world. We care about where we live, where we work. We care about being good neighbors, responsible business people, about our kids, about our communities, and our environment. That's why we're working on this problem we have with handling solid waste. It's a problem we should all know as much as we can about. And that's why we've made this videotape, so you can see what we've learned and what we're doing to help solve the solid waste problem in neighborhoods where we live and work.
To properly manage solid waste will depend largely upon a community's ability and recognition that it needs to be properly managed.
First off, we found out there's a lot to learn. Even the experts don't always agree. But when you listen to them, you hear something very different from what a lot of us thought we knew about recycling, for example.
Some examples of products that are being made out of recycled plastics today would include the stuffing in ski jackets, for example. There's a fairly high percentage of the fiberfill that's going into that product, or into pillows, or into the anti-allergy stuffing for some quilts and comforters. There is recycled plastics going into carpeting, so there's a fairly good chance if somebody goes out and buys a polyester carpet that they are getting a product that has seen other uses, such as a soft drink bottle.
And we saw flower pots and seedling packages. This is a European product, both made from recycled plastics. And insulation board, made from recycled foamed plastic, just like we use for hot drink cups and packages. Even this entire deck and picnic table at Rutgers University made from recycled plastic. So it's obvious. Plastic can be recycled and is being recycled more and more. We found out there was a lot we didn't know about what happens in landfills, too, and about the whole issue of biodegradable waste.
We have sort of a compost theory in our heads. You know, you bury this stuff in the ground, and then the organics, the food remains, the yard waste, the paper, degrades. And then maybe the land settles, and you can use it again for more garbage. And the degrading process occurs very quickly. A few weeks, a few months, maybe a couple of years. That's the theory. In actual practice, what we find is that practically nothing decomposes in a landfill. We find T-bone steaks with the lean and the fat. We find hot dogs from 1972, been in a landfill for 16 years. We find newspapers in huge quantities all the way back to 1970, and that's as far as we've dug right now. It's very clear that the materials that people think are going to rapidly degrade don't.
And the same way with the paper cups, we find the paper cups that you still can identify as a paper cup. In fact, some of them you can read on them and it says this cup is biodegradable. And this is after being in the sanitary landfill for 10 years plus.
the very durability of plastics, the fact that they don't break down easily, means that they're really not much of a problem in a landfill. As an environmentalist, I don't worry very much about plastics when they're in the landfill.
We investigated incineration and found a great deal of support for that technique as part of a sound waste management plan.
Most people, when they hear the term incineration, have a very mistaken impression of what an incinerator really is. They think about an old smoking furnace belching out black smoke and with a lot of odors and just a very unpleasant type of device. Today's modern incinerators are really very well scientifically and technically designed. They are furnaces that operate at very high temperatures, very good control over the waste feed, very good control over the combustion process. They've been scientifically designed to burn wastes very, very well. The United States has fewer incinerators than most industrialized countries, and that's because we've had a lot of land and we've been able to use landfills for managing our wastes. Most countries in Europe and in Japan, for example, where land is very, very scarce, have many incinerators. There's probably several hundred modern incinerators in Europe and in Japan. And in general, those countries are very satisfied with the operation of those incinerators. They find that there are efficient ways of disposing of their wastes, and they find that they can manage those units in ways that don't harm the environment.
There are a few groups who have said, we can just solve this problem by recycling or just not producing materials or something. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think the way to look at it is you've got four options. You ought to maximize source reduction, maximize recycling, and then you ought to have safe incineration and safe landfilling.
If you heard some things there that surprised you, you're certainly not alone. We did too. One of our biggest concerns as people who operate restaurants has been the trade-off between paper and foamed plastics for hot drink cups and packaging. Some people have been concerned that plastic packaging makes a big contribution to the waste problem. But the plastics we use are formulated so no toxics are created, either in manufacturing or disposal. They can be recycled. And it's clear that paper doesn't really biodegrade in landfills a whole lot better than plastic does, if at all. From an environmental point of view, paper presents its own problems.
You cannot make a blanket statement that paper is always better from the environmental perspective than plastic. You have to look at the individual use and make your judgment. Packaging is a relatively small drain on petroleum and natural gas resources. It is of some concern, but not of great concern. Paper also produces stresses on natural resources to the extent that we are damaging our forests. We really use much more packaging than we need to get the job done. So it's a simple way to deal with the problem. We don't need to have a hamburger that can be dropped out of your Empire State Building and still survive.
Granted, but we do need one that can survive a trip home or to the office. That's one of the big advantages of plastic packaging.
I've been in the business for over 20 years, and in the early days, if somebody would take the packaging home or back to their place of employment, the rim around the bottom would be all wet and leaky, and sometimes they would have to transfer it to something else.
Packaging the drive-through is important so that the product stays warm, it doesn't leak, it's convenient, you can keep things warm, it doesn't get messy for you. That's the whole purpose and why we use the styrofoam cups.
The temperature of our coffee is at 180 degrees. And if we didn't use this kind of high-quality foam, we wouldn't be able to provide the customer with as good a coffee as we do with such high standards.
We wrap our straws and we wrap all our utensils so that they're not handled by anybody else. The most important thing is that we provide people with clean utensils. Having them wrapped and packaged guarantees that nobody else has handled them, nobody else has used them, and you are guaranteed a quality product.
These packages McDonald's uses are made from a type of plastic called polystyrene foam. And that's the type of plastic that's been associated with CFCs. CFC is shorthand for a certain type of gas, a chlorofluorocarbon that's been found to damage the Earth's upper ozone layer. There are no CFCs in the plastic, but in the past, CFCs were used in manufacturing to make the bubbles. No more. McDonald's was a leader in voluntarily discontinuing the use of CFCs in polystyrene packaging.
CFCs have been used in the past in products such as refrigerant. It's been used in cleaning of electronic devices, and there has been some uses in the blow foaming of plastics packaging. However, I should note that under a United Nations protocol, informally known as the Montreal Protocol, there has been a call for the gradual elimination of CFCs. Plastics industry, particularly the polystyrene foam packaging group, has been a leader and has announced that by the end of this year, 1988, CFCs will no longer be used in the manufacturing process of foam products.
CFCs aside, how does polystyrene stack up against other materials as a packaging for food? Where waste is concerned, well, paper is considered biodegradable, but that doesn't happen fast enough to reduce the need for landfill space. And in fact, when paper and other waste does biodegrade, that's what causes most of the problems that make landfills a worry: settling, chemical seepage, and methane gas.
In Japan, they have two kinds of landfills, and the kind that they worry about is the landfill for biodegradable material. It's a pain in the neck because it's very expensive. You have to line it properly to keep the leachate in. You have to have pipes and tubes to collect the leachate so it can be monitored. You have to have methane wells put in that vent methane gas when materials do degrade. And then you have to cap the landfill, and you have to manage it for years and years and years to make sure it's safe. That's a pain. Their other kind of landfill is for construction debris and plastics. They fill it up with that material, they put some dirt on the top, then they build stadiums or recreation areas or whatever, no other problems. I've been asked several times, which would you rather have in a landfill behind you? Paper or foam? No question, foam.
One other question. How much restaurant packaging, for that matter, how much plastic is in a typical landfill? The experts disagree on exactly how much, but they all agree it's a pretty small amount.
In landfills in Tucson, Arizona, in the Bay Area of California, and in the Chicago area, what we found is fast food packaging is less than 1/4%. Not 20 or 30%, but less than 1/4%. The only way to find that out is to dig it up.
Generally, we find in the municipal solid waste somewhere around 5 or 6% by weight of plastics. And of course, the polystyrene foam, those kinds of things, is much less. One of the ones that's most interesting that most people haven't probably thought about a lot, but about 20% of our waste stream is yard waste, just plain old clippings and grass and that kind of thing. 20% of the total waste stream in this country it comes from yard clippings.
Look at this typical landfill. The total amount of all plastic food packaging from restaurants and grocery stores combined would occupy only this much of the space, less than 1/4%. By contrast, paper products and yard waste together take up more than half the space in a landfill. So foam packaging is a small problem, but a problem nonetheless. Anything anyone throws away is a problem. We think the advantages to our customers, sanitation, hot, fresh, great-tasting food, and convenience are important. We've been told a responsible plan for waste handling includes 4 things: reducing waste at its source, recycling, incineration, and landfilling. We're looking at ways to reduce the amount of packaging we use without giving up the advantages our customers have told us they want. We've been involved in recycling for a long time. McDonald's took the lead in developing ways to use recycled paper in restaurant operations, and now we use more recycled paper than any other restaurant company. We've introduced experimental recycling programs for polystyrene packaging, too.
We reprocess polystyrene in our plants every day as a matter of the normal manufacturing process. And we do have the technology to do that. Therefore, the real key to this demonstration process is in the collection and in the separation and cleaning of the polystyrene. And that's what this process is really intended to do.
This process is designed to recover polystyrene from
quick service restaurants. And essentially, the process is set up so that we can take the polystyrene away from the rest of the waste stream and recover a very clean, recyclable product. Polystyrene containers that we're seeing here are actually very easy to recycle. Essentially, everything that comes in can be recycled in one form or another. And the most interesting part is that you can really recover polystyrene. I mean, it is a valuable product, and it can be gotten in a very clean form.
We're looking at other ways, too, to separate and collect recyclable products. In one experiment, we're asking our customers to get involved by sorting plastic and paper products and disposing of them in separate containers in our restaurants. In another test, we're trying out a baling machine that will help save corrugated cartons so they can be collected later for recycling.
SPI's Council for Solid Waste Solutions is a new organization founded this year by the plastics industry. It has principally two functions. One, we recognize that plastics waste is a part, and I emphasize a part, of the solid waste management problem. Second, the Council will endeavor with all the resources available to it to help society, help communities find solutions to the solid waste management situation.
First off, I think everybody at the local level needs to get involved in recycling. I think recycling is going to be important in virtually every community. I've talked about a national goal of 25% recycling.
In still another experimental program, we're exploring incineration. We've installed specially designed state-of-the-art incinerators at several McDonald's restaurants. We think they'll prove to be not only a safe way to manage waste, but they'll also help us save energy by generating heat we can use. And they'll help the community by eliminating at least a little bit of the need for landfill space.
The materials from McDonald's that we're handling with the system include discarded food, packaging, plastics, foam products, the paper products. The ash is inert, okay, and the results that are coming out of the stack, the emissions, end up being CO2 and water vapor. Now, to put this a little bit into the real world, the emissions from this system are in effect less than your home or residential fireplace in a single family home, or at the barbecue grill in the backyard.
At McDonald's, we believe the packaging we use makes a real contribution to the quality of our restaurants. It promotes high levels of sanitation, helps keep our products hot and fresh, and provides real service and convenience to our customers. From talking to the experts, we've learned our packaging does not make a major impact on the waste management problem we're all so concerned about. Well, certainly not a negative impact. In fact, many experts told us that plastic is an environmentally sound material for food service use. We're working hard to be responsible in the way we use packaging, and we're helping develop better waste management techniques. We're concerned about waste management, just like our neighbors are. After all, we live here too, and we've always tried hard to be good neighbors.
At McDonald's, our job is to give our customers the very best experience we can. And I know that the 2,000 McDonald's owner-operators around the world would agree. That means more than fresh, hot, great-tasting food, fast service, and clean restaurants. It also means being responsible citizens and good neighbors. And we are good neighbors by supporting all kinds of programs that benefit the communities where we do business. From youth sports and school-related programs to projects like the Ronald McDonald House, the National Muscular Dystrophy Telethon, and Ronald McDonald's Children's Charities. We are responsible citizens too. Some of them you've heard about today, such as using as much recycled paper as we can in our restaurants and offices, using packaging that's made without CFCs, and studying ways to reduce and manage solid waste. Waste management is something that concerns all of us, and we all have to take part in solving the solid waste problem. McDonald's is actively involved in a whole array of projects, looking at better packaging techniques, exploring new materials, supporting recycling projects, testing new procedures in our restaurants, investigating incineration. We'll use any or all of those methods to do our part in solving this problem that affects all of our communities.